The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, Earnestly Speaking podcast. Let's get it. I'm a giant in New York, in Miami carry heat. So much more in store, my product can flood the street. Opinion Nation Godfather, CEO. Puff in the late 90s, gon' see me blow. Oh. Got my hustle on, no imitation of bad. Army of untouchables, Opinion Nation staff. Never an off season, homie, check the numbers. Heartthrob in my own right, supplying southern comfort. Earnestly speaking, my ego is well fed. Earnestly speaking, you're too evil and no threat. See, I'm like a hurricane, you're a mild breeze. Earnestly speaking, leaving Eli a dynasty. Shake!
Earnestly Podcast coming to you Monday night, May 19th, 2025. You may not notice this if you're watching a video, because there's a video of this episode today. However, it is audio only. I'm keeping the overlay up today because I am not in a condition right now to record with a video right now. As you guys know, the last year or so, over a year, it was close to 2 years now, all the shows on this feed, all the episodes on the podcast have been video, especially with guests, of course, too. And for a while we did all the solo shows with audio only, and then at some point we opened it up to video. But today I was not in the mood to get dressed and put on proper t-shirts and all this stuff. I just had a day today, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, content's content anyway. So, we do a lot of shows through the week. We record a lot of shows, and sometimes it's okay to have a show that's not video, and it's okay. It's okay. So we're here, we're recording. Had no plans to do the show tonight, a solo show tonight, but then my wife made plans to go out with her girlfriends for dinner. And like, well, I got time. I have things I want to talk about on my own that doesn't require, a guest. Although I already have guests lined up for the shows in a week. We're gonna still have our Tuesday shows. We're gonna have our Thursday shows. We still do a wrestling show on Tuesday nights. Falls Count Anywhere. But I haven't done a lot of solo shows lately. And I feel like I'm slacking on that. And I gotta tell you, part of me really wants to start doing more solo shows, to where I don't do video sometimes. I just want to today. So I'm not gonna do it. But there's a lot to talk about here. A lot to talk about today here in sports. A lot to talk about in politics. Personal stuff going on. I got a lot of things I want to share with you guys. Which you guys are part of this show now. 14 years of running Earnestly Podcast. We're approaching our 15-year anniversary next year. We got a lot of cool ideas coming on the pike for that. If you're on YouTube, of course, check out the podcast. It has its own feed now on YouTube at Earnestly Speak Pod on YouTube. We are now up to, I think that's last I checked, we had up to 421 subscribers. Please, guys, share the show with your friends, your family, your loved ones, your people you hate. It's good content here, man. I'm giving you guys good content. If you love wrestling, you love sports, you love political talk, you love anything. This life. Life be lifing, man. Life be lifing. And I got a lot to talk about all this year. But I want to start here first. And in the basketball world, we are officially now at conference finals time, and really in the NHL and the NBA, especially WNBA, of course, number one for me. And I have to make a confession to make. Sound like Dave Grohl. I got a confession to make. No, I ain't trying to sing on this show, but got a confession to make. You guys know I'm a diehard Miami Heat fan. That is my team. That is my favorite franchise, all sports. Die hard. However, in watching these NBA playoffs play out and where we're at now, our Final Four, you got Minnesota, OKC in the Western Conference. Okay. And in the Eastern Conference, you have the Indiana Pacers against the New York Knicks. You guys already know, and I've made this point pretty clear over the course of the last couple episodes of the show, that I have a very, very, very tortured history when it comes to the New York Knicks. Okay. I am a New York-born male, okay, whose all favorite teams outside of basketball is from New York. Giant fan of football, Met fan in baseball, Rangers fan of hockey. Okay. The Heat is the only anomaly of the bunch. Okay. Now, you guys know my story. I've been a Heat fan 36 years since the second year of existence. But pre-Pratt Rally years was not all too kind. Okay. The Heat were not a good team. They had a couple playoff bursts, but they flamed out in the first round of playoffs. They were not even close to being a top contender. But I have an affinity for those teams, though. However, being someone that was not a Bulls fan who hated Michael Jordan as a kid, I wasn't one of those kids that worship the ground Michael Jordan. Although I do recognize he is the greatest of all time, and I even admit that. So when they played the Knicks, in the '90s, in those playoff battles from 1991 through 95, even into the late 90s, I always rooted for the Knicks for two reasons. Number one, I wanted the Bulls to lose, number one. But number two, I love Patrick Ewing. I'm a massive Patrick Ewing fan. Okay? So I always rooted for the Knicks to win those series. Always. Okay? When they played Houston in the finals 1994, root for the Knicks as well, too. Because I wanted Pat Ewing to get a ring. It wasn't until even when the Heat Knicks rivalry ratcheted up, when Pat Riley came here in 95 and that whole rigmarole, how he came down here and all that bullshit, and this is the way how that played out, and that heated up the rivalry to the Heat and Knicks. Even in the late 90s when that rivalry was at a crescendo, the Heat, the biggest rivalry in probably at the time, I would argue Heat Knicks from 1997 through 2000 can be argued was the biggest rivalry in sports. Certainly wasn't in that 3-year radius. Okay. I still couldn't come to terms with hating the Knicks like everybody else did. Heat fans did, of course. But I couldn't necessarily go on my way to hate the Knicks. Now, I root for the Heat, obviously, in those series. But I could never necessarily hate the Knicks. So when the Knicks beat Miami in 99 as the 8th seed, I cried like a bitch, obviously. I did cry. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, we lost. Well, fuck it. It sucks. But damn well root for the Knicks win the rest of the way. Root for the Knicks to go to the finals, which they did. Only lose San Antonio in 5 games in the NBA finals in that shortened year. And even in 2000, when they beat Miami again in 7 games in the playoffs. And then the Knicks went to the conference finals that year also, too, against Indiana, and they lost. Root for the Knicks. And then they let Patrick Ewing go. And the way that team and that fan base treated Patrick Ewing, the way when he got traded from the team, it left a massive and a really, really ugly pit in my stomach. It was disgusting as hell. And for 25 years since then, I've had a disdain for the Knicks and that franchise. I've been very unapologetic about my, can't say hatred, but it's pretty damn close. My disdain and disappointment of that franchise and James Dolan, the way he runs that team. And it's weird because like a lot of these fans, in fact, all these fans, and most of the fans, I'd say, that are Knicks fans, I said for years, I gotta break bread with them in football season. There's a lot of Knicks fans who are dire Knicks fans who hate the Heat, but come September through December, January, and a couple of times in February when they win the Super Bowl, we're friends and we're pals for the New York Giants, or even some of them are Met fans too also. So we're pals through there also as well too. So it's a weird situation there, okay? But this Knicks team down in the conference finals is a very, very, very likable team. Jalen Brunson is a very likable player. So easy to root for. I knew this kid was a good player. I watched him in Villanova, watched him in the Mavericks, watching him and Luka 3 years ago had that run to the conference finals. And Jalen Brunson got a big contract, but most people, including myself at the time, would say was overpaid because we didn't think Jalen Brunson was that good to get a 4-year, $100 million contract, or what number was. It was somewhere around that. And even then, we thought like, oh, this is a lot of money for this guy. Like, he's a good player, but is he that good? And right now, and I said 1 year in, I was wrong that it was the best value contract in basketball. And right now, it is the best contract in basketball in terms of value. Like, Jalen Brunson is underpaid. Okay, he is probably right now a top 10 player in the league, and right now at the SGA, probably the best point guard in basketball. Okay, and he has changed the culture, and he's so easy to root for because he just comes in, does his job, doesn't talk shit. He comes in, clocks in, plays hard, and goes about his business. He's so easy to root for. So he makes this team easy to root for. And to be honest, even the Knicks in itself is pretty easy to root for. Even Karl-Anthony Towns, Cat, a guy who I've been critical of for, many, many, many years. I've already said on record I was not a fan of his game. This year it grew on me. A guy like OG Anunoby, who's a very good player, two-way player. Mikal Bridges, solid player. This is a very likable team. Josh Hart, likable team. So I'm kind of tortured here because, it's a likable team with guys I can root for, a fan base that, I hit or miss with. Obviously, some of them are Giants fans, but some are also kind of arrogant and bing bong and all this Knicks tape shit and all this stuff they do. So I'm a little tortured. And then they have the Heat part of it. I'm a Heat fan, so with rivals. Let's be real now. That Heat-Knicks rivalry died 20 years ago. No one cares anymore. No, I mean, I know the NBA tries to ratchet up every once in a while when they play in the playoffs, 2 years ago and a couple of years after that. But there was no rivalry there. I mean, yes, you hate Pat Riley still, but Pat Riley has been in Miami now 30 years. Get over it. Miami's won 3 championships since then. Get over it. But this Knicks team is so easy to root for, man. Now who am I rooting for? I root for them obviously in this series against Indiana because I can't stand the Pacers. Okay, I'm rooting for Oklahoma State Thunder to win the whole thing. I think that team is this great, fun to watch, 68 win team. SGA is one of my favorite players in the league now. Just does his job. He's a throwback from at least in my opinion. So there you go. But I'm kind of tortured here. For the Knicks. Tortured. So we'll obviously have a preview of the NBA Conference Finals tomorrow on the show. Okay. You see the episode of this podcast today. And I think I've touched on this subject before in the past about thinking about death and mortality and all that stuff. And I'm 45 years old. I had a health scare 2 years ago and a couple of ones since then. And I've been really more, I can't say strict because I'm still struggling with my nutrition and stuff and whatnot. But God, I can't stop thinking about death. I can't. And it gets harder when you have people around you, people in my day job, for example, who have passed away recently, older folks, but still, death is death. And I can't stop thinking about it. It's it's around me. I have friends of mine who have people suffering around them. I have, friends of mine who have things going on, and family members have things going on. And we're all going to have our day. I just want my day to be anytime soon. And growing up as a kid, I always feared death. I was catatonic about the idea of dying. And then a friend of mine told me one time, he said, think about sleeping. You're gonna go to sleep and then it's not gonna wake up. We go to sleep every night and don't even realize we're sleeping. The difference is that you're just never gonna wake up again. That's all. So and I thought about that. I was like, oh, that makes sense. And from there, I kind of it sort of made me a little more comfortable. I think my fear of mortality for me personally, on a personal level for me, is I don't want to leave my family. I have 2 young kids, 12 years old, 8 years old, who depend on me, who are my life. A woman, my wife, who is my entire world, who I'd be nothing without, who I love more than life itself, who I'll take a bullet for. You know what I'm saying? And I can imagine myself not being here to see my family grow, and become their best selves as we grow into this. All the memories we're going to create in the years to come. This summer alone, we have so much great plans this summer. So much things we have going on. I want to be there to see that, to be my family. I love my family so much. It's almost sickening how much I love my family. I may sit there and joke about my kids being pains in the asses and my wife keeps on to be a pain in the ass. That's fine. But at the end of the day, man, where my love, my loyalty goes. My number one priority, always is my wife and kids. It is. I do not care about anything else more than my wife and my 2 sons. In discussion. So I can't. So what motivates me to stay alive and to stay healthy and to try to be healthy and try to exercise more and try to be in a place where mentally I'm able to function as a human being to avoid a shorter life. You know, they're my motivation. My motivation is my wife and kids. So but you know, I kind of think about that. And then you have yesterday, you know, too. Also, Joe Biden, former president of the United States, 46, announces yesterday that he has prostate cancer. That's actually aggressive, stage 4. And you have that situation. Again, a guy he lived his life already. He's 82 years old, this and that. So that's to me a big surprise necessarily, but it's still death. It's not died yet, but it's still the idea of thinking about mortality. And then, you know, you have all this conversation about, and obviously we get into the political part of it also too, about, you know, she ran for president before he got knocked out in the race last year and all that stuff. And then people thinking that, people assuming now he was hiding this all along, that there's no way how he could have just found this out. You know, and it's so uncomfortable to talk about this stuff. And look, we get to the political part of this about why he should have ran for president. I remember I said this 3 years ago during the midterms 2022 that he should never run for re-election. But we don't have to rehash that situation. All I care about right now is that Joe Biden gets better. Joe Biden, you know, and his wife Jill, that they are staying strong. We have a lot of support. You may not like his politics or whatever, and you might like him and what he's done in his 40 years, but he's a human being. And I'm sorry if you can't, as so much as social respect and reverence to someone who served this country for a long time. You know, not just as a president, but also as a senator and you know and other roles he played his country. Then you got a fucking problem. Then you got a problem. Okay, you don't have to like his politics. You know, I say the same thing with what happened to Donald Trump. If Donald Trump was sick with the same diagnosis, he'll get my prayers and my thoughts. He's a human being at the end of the day. So that's how I'll leave it at that. You know, but you know, it's just all this shit around. I got another friend who has a mom who's not doing very well health wise. Shout out to my friend Maria. I won't say her name because I don't know to keep it private, but she has a mom that's not doing very well. And it's also my prayers, of course, to her and her family. You know, I just can't stop thinking mortality. I can't stop thinking about it. It's all around me. And I just turned 45 a couple weeks ago, and it's just so much around. It's so much, you know. But you just have to keep living. Try to stay healthy, make healthy choices. You know, be there for family, that kind of thing. And if you do that, hopefully things work out. So I can tell you, we're all gonna have our day. We're just hoping that we can slow down the process until that day comes. That's all I can say. So some music talk. So Metallica is actually re-releasing a box set, a massive box set, surrounding the Load album, which came out in 1996. You guys know I'm a Metallica diehard. I'm going to be seeing them in concert in about 3 weeks. My family actually in Tampa. Load happens to be my second favorite album of theirs. Of course, this is a very controversial album because this was the album that people believe that they. Now, granted, we heard this before in the past with Ride the Lightning and even with the Black Album, but a lot of people believe that this is the album that where Metallica, after becoming the biggest band on the planet, the Black Album down before that the band, quote unquote, sold out. And I love this album. I told you guys, I remember a couple years ago on the podcast, I did a episode where I discussed the anniversary of Load about 4 years ago, actually. And the importance of the album for me personally, it was the album that didn't make me a fan of the band, but I became a fan of the band that year. But it solidified my love for the band. And now they're putting out a release of vinyls and booklets and all the stuff and all the bunch of concert stuff and live versions of songs and demos and all this stuff. It's really cool. Now a lot of the stuff I've already heard already because, you know, if you back in the day, you should collect singles back in the day, and they'll have like in the back of the singles, the B-sides, they'll have like all this stuff in there. So some of the stuff I've already heard already. My only thing is this though from Metallica is that why don't they release this next year? Like next year's the 3rd anniversary. Would it make sense to do it in 2026, which is the actual anniversary of the album, 30-year anniversary of the album. That's the only thing that really doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you release this now instead of releasing it like next year? It doesn't make any sense to me. It does not make any sense to me whatsoever. But I do plan on getting it at some point. But it's a cool little thing there. Cool little thing that they're putting out there. All right. So lately, personal stuff here. Lately, I've been, you know, my wife and I we were going through the house recently yesterday. I've been stressed out. Like I said, mental health is important. Taking care of your health is important. And one of the things I started doing recently to get back to basics is I've been rededicating myself to minimalism. And you guys know that I've been someone that's very much been an advocate for minimalism for at least about 6-7 years now. I've started recently. I've kind of strayed from that recently because it's, again, becoming a minimalist is tough. Like I could do it with my own stuff, my personal stuff and my personal life. But when you share a space with not just a wife, you share a space with children and kids that want stuff. And yes, I know you're the parent, so you dictate where that goes. And my wife somewhat embraces some of the principles of minimalism, but she's not like where I'm at, for example. Like I would rather go full bore. She's not necessarily set that way. Like I'd rather put my money and my energy into experiences as opposed to like things. I don't enjoy buying things. I'm a pretty frugal guy. I can do without things. I live a very simple life, and I'm proud of that. So minimalism for me fits me. And minimalism doesn't necessarily mean you don't have anything. It's just the real purpose of minimalism, in my opinion, and I think it was squared away by, actually, go figure, the minimalist, who was very popular, is that putting value in things that you actually put value into. Like if you it's not about just saving money. It's like if you have a passion about something, like I'm passionate about podcasts, for example. So putting money into things that relate to the podcast is not a bad thing because it's something you're passionate about. Okay. But like buying things for the sake of buying things, for example, and it's like stack them in your house. Like I buy 3 t-shirts, and 2 of those shirts I'm probably not going to wear more than once next year or two. What's the point? That's the stuff I look at. So I've been trying to get back to basics with that. And minimalism for me has always been a foundational motivation to keep things simple, keep the main thing the main thing. Again, for me personally, I want to dedicate my time and my energy into experiences, doing concerts and doing, going to events and spend time with my wife, and I'm going to dinner dates and stuff. And again, my life is very, very simple. Very simple. So that's for me. That's why going back to basics for me it's easy. But that's why I'm at these days. Rededicate myself to that. Also dedicated also to my fitness and health. Now tomorrow I got to do blood work. You guys probably don't know this, but I recently has started hormone therapy. When I did my last blood work about 3 months ago, it recently come back that my my hormones, my testosterone was way low, like very, 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 very low, and that she suggests I do a procedure, take shots or something of that ilk. So I started taking shots. I did a 5-week round of needles once a week of therapy shots of hormone shots. It has worked. I felt physically different. I've started getting back to the gym again. I'm for the first time in about 15 years, probably. I'm back. I'm in the gym consistently now. I'm lifting weights again. I'm walking every day. Although I slacked off a couple of days, but tomorrow I'm gonna get back to the horn. I'm walking 2 miles a day now. I'm back in the gym lifting weights and all this stuff. I have a leg day and an arm day, and it's really great. So I'm back to dedicate myself now to using my downtime, not just to do podcasts, but also to use that time to go work out and exercise and get vitamin C and vitamin D, and this kind of shake things up. Now it's going to be a little challenging now when the kids be home from school next week, well, next 2 weeks rather, for the next 10 weeks. Now granted, a little older now, so I can still get out the house and do 2 miles a day, but again, they also demand my attention to all that good stuff. But that has been my energy the last couple of weeks, where I've really focused on my health and my fitness, especially on the fitness part. The nutrition part is the hardest part for me. I do fast every day, which is good, but I don't eat as well as I should. I still eat too much sugar. I still eat too much carbs. I'm gonna get my work tomorrow. We'll know the results in a couple days after that. But I'm worried that my A1C has not really improved much, and I need to really get on the horn of that now going forward. My wife, who has been phenomenal at this, unfortunately, what was I say? Fortunately, it motivates me to do better, but also at the same time, it's harder. She's really good at this stuff. My wife is very disciplined in this shit. I'm not at all. There's certain things I can do well. I can cut back on things, but there are days where like I decide I want to just go on a bender and eat what I want to eat. Eat fast food and I can't do that anymore really necessarily, but I don't do as much anymore. But there'll be days where I'm like, fuck, I want to eat something that I really want to eat, and I don't want to be restricted to that. But at the same time, I also know that I have to be very careful on how far I go with that. So I'm really trying to get back into the framework of dedicating, not just my fitness and whatnot, but also my nutrition, which is, to be honest, even more important. Because again, 85% of all of this is in nutrition. Like, you can work out all you want, but if you're not eating correctly, it's all for naught. At best, it's a wash. At worst, you still putting more shit in your system, and your working out is not really gonna account to anything. So there's all that. Like I mentioned, my kids are not yet, but I think about a week and a half home for the summer. We got a big summer ahead of us. It's gonna be one of my active summers. I used to say a lot that I used to dread the summers because when the kids are home, because of our schedules, we're always restricted to what we can and can't do as a family, or individually, because we're home all the time, But the last couple of years, I've started to really embrace and enjoy the summers with my children. And this year, we have a lot coming up this summer we have planned. I told you guys earlier, we're going to go see Metallica in concert in June 8th in Tampa. We're going to drive to Tampa on June 8th, go see Metallica in concert, all four of us, then drive to Orlando immediately after the show. The very next day, go to Disney for a day. Okay. We also have another Disney trip planned also later in August. Go to the water park and then go to Disney the next day as well. Then my wife and I are going to be doing, as you guys already know, my wife and I will be flying to New York for a few days. The main reason is to go see System of a Down and Korn in concert at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. But we're going to spend about four days in New York as well, with friends, and hopefully see other friends in New York too as well. But a lot of coworkers and friends are going to be at the show with us. And on top of that, we have a lot of activities we'll be doing with family. We got, I know I'm doing a luau with some other friends and coworkers. We have a couple other like little events we're doing in between that. I think the biggest challenge for me for summertime for me is more so keeping things cost efficient. Because the thing is, me personally for work, the summer time of the year, so I gotta be very careful how much money I'm spending, and we got all these things we want to do. But you also got to make sure I have money to do it. And you got this big trips, all the trips I'm planning to do. So I make sure we're on top of that. But all these cool activities. There's going to be a lot of pool days, obviously. There's going to be a lot of, water parks. There's going to be like, other things that we're going to be planning out, gatherings of friends, lagoons, you name it. So all these things I look forward to. And yeah, it's 10 weeks of summertime for the kids. But I'm going to tell you, these 10 weeks go fast. They go fast. Before you know it, it's going to be early August, and school's back in 2 weeks. So, just saying. So I'm actually looking forward to this though. My kids again are getting older. They're 12 and 8. I got my oldest going to be going to 7th grade. He's 2 years away from high school. My youngest is going to be in 3rd grade, and both doing well in school right now. So it's a lot to look forward to, and so hopefully we have a productive summer and a great summer, and create memories, create core memories. That's my goal. My goal right now in life, as I told you, thinking about mortality all the time, but my number one goal in life right now is to create core memories. So when we get older, we have something to talk about and things to remember. Forget the things we bought, but the things we experienced. I know this Metallica concert, for example. My youngest son who's another massive fan like I am. He's so looking forward to this concert, and I know, I could not see them, and it's fine. I've seen them 4 times already in concert, but the reason why I'm pressing this to go now is because who knows when we're going to see him again. I mean, I'm not saying they're retiring time soon, but my son is 8 years old. If they decide not to tour for another 5-6 years, and by the way, they're ready in their early to close in the mid-60s right now. Who say they don't retire in this couple of years? They don't need to do this anymore. They do because they love it. I don't want my son to miss the opportunity to see him live. You know what I'm saying? Just you can say I saw Metallica in concert before they stopped. Assuming of course they stop. I don't think they will stop, but I don't want to take the chance. That's why I prioritize this show so much for him to go see it. If I had my way, I would do both. I would do both nights. They're playing 2 nights. They're playing on Friday and a Sunday. My selfish ass wanted to do it my own, go to the show on my own, and do 2 nights. But I know my son wanted to do this. My son begged to do this concert. And who am I to tell him no? Like my wife doesn't care about Metallica. She hates Metallica, actually, to be honest with you. But she's gonna go anyway because of the experience for myself and my younger son. My oldest son was a bigger fan of Metallica when we were growing up, but he's now more into hip hop now and rap music. So he's kind of straight away from rock music. But myself and my youngest son are the Metallica diehards in the family. So that's this summer. I cannot wait. And that's it for this podcast. Again, audio only. But again, dated also May 19th, 2025. I am on X at EJ Christian 7. Earnestly podcast goes all podcast catchers such as was it Apple Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. I said that already, right? Google Podcasts, you name it. Earnestly podcast, of course, as well on YouTube at Earnest Speak Pod, Earnest Speak Podcast. Also on TikTok, clips of the show on TikTok as well too. Check out all the content on the feed, not just the main show. We have Full Scott Anywhere. We have the wrestling retrospective. We have other projects we're going to be bringing to light in the very near future. So look out for that on this feed as well too. So until then, we'll talk to you guys soon. God bless y'all, and until the next one. Later.